pretty much my whole story. So this might take me a while, but it's a little scary for me, not for you. And I just want to fully share my background because I think it's important. So basically, I grew up in a very small town in Wisconsin, right? And I had my two brothers and good life. I can't complain about my childhood whatsoever. I was always very shy though. So when I got to high school, I remember having like to force myself to be social and just being so shy. I remember having like my very first boyfriend, you know who you are, and it lasted like 4 days, and I don't think I talked to him like once because I was terrified. I just had high social anxiety. So when I was 14 or 15, I had my first taste of alcohol, and that definitely changed me. It made me turn into the person that I always wished I could be. It made me very social, very low anxiety, happy, just the all-around fun person that I always wanted to be, that I always thought of myself as. So for me, it was like, this is amazing. And so I slowly started doing it more, drinking more, and I just loved how it made me feel. I loved how it brought out this side of me that I couldn't do when I was sober. And I was fun. People loved being around me, and that's what I've always wanted to be. So I started drinking a little bit more, and when I got out of high school, drinking a little bit more. I was working as a bartender, you know, that lifestyle. All the way up until I was about 22, I drank a lot, I went out a lot. It was fun, but I could see myself kind of getting sucked into the negativity of alcoholism. So I just kept, for a while there, from like 21 to 22, I just kept drinking, and just every day was a party. Sun up to sundown, work, party, sleep, you know, repeat. So that's what I did for a while. And then when I got to that point where I was like, my life is going nowhere, all I'm doing is drinking, I need to do something else. I need to get out. I need to get out of Wisconsin. What can I do? Let's sign up for the military. So I signed up for the Army, and in 2010 I left, and I thought I was going to get to travel and, you know, do all this cool stuff. Well, I ended up getting asthma real bad, and I didn't have any problems before I joined. So it was like a whole new experience for me because I was limited in my abilities to do things. And so it kind of sucked. I mean, I'm glad I did it, and it taught me a lot, but it definitely was a trying time for me. And in that process, I met my husband, and my ex-husband, excuse me, and we met in basic. I left for advanced training, and we ended up getting stationed at the same duty station back in basic, Fort Sill, Oklahoma. So we ended up like hanging out one night. I was just super drunk. It was a bad situation, and kind of were hanging out ever since. And then 3 months later we got married because, you know, soldier lifestyle. We didn't want to stay in the barracks, and we just thought that, you know, I made a choice. I made a commitment to, this is the one, like, I'm going to make this work. And I'm going to put a pause right there because I got to make my breakfast. And I'm back. Okay, so yeah, I met my ex-husband in the military. And so when I was growing up, I was always dreaming of having a baby, having a child. Like that was my goals in life, I guess, to be a mom. And I wanted to get married too, but really it was I wanted to be a mom. I didn't think so much about Prince Charming or whatever, but I definitely always had a baby around with me when I was little. I had a stroller. I would change them, feed them. I was obsessed with babies. And so that was just always a dream of mine to have kids. And so when I met my ex, and then I also since I was very into drinking and had like this self-esteem issues and stuff, I was very codependent. So I was looking for a man to save me, if you will. I was looking for somebody to come along, whisk me away, and solve all my problems, right? Wrong. But that's how I felt. So when I met my ex, I thought that, okay, I'm going to make this work. This is the one. I'm going to have my white picket fence. I'm going to have my kids, and it's going to be wonderful and beautiful and whatever. So then we started having little issues, and I was still kind of drinking at the time. He didn't like that. So that kind of posed a big problem, but I decided that I would quit drinking because it wasn't fun for me anymore, and I wanted a family. So 2 years after we got married, we had our first son, Beckham, and it was amazing. It was everything that I ever dreamed of, and unfortunately it was very short-lived because I got out right around the same time, out of the Army, or right around the same time that I had Beckham. And so we moved to Arizona, where Sam was from, and had this big old house, and I had my son, and we were both retired from the Army, so it was like we had all this free time and free money and whatever to just do nothing. Well, he ended up, at the time, I didn't know like anything about drugs, right? Well, I knew that when I met my ex that he was an ex-heroin addict, and he told me that. But I didn't really think much of it. And so when he was in the military, he got hurt and was on like pain meds all the time. I didn't make the connection whatsoever. I grew up in a small town where I didn't know that stuff existed. I maybe knew the word heroin, but I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what it was. Nothing. So I just grew up thinking that drugs are bad and alcohol was not a drug, and I just was naive to it all. And so he was gone a lot the first like 6 months of Beckham's life. Like, we were living together, but he was like never there. And he always said he was working or doing this or doing that. He always had excuses for where he was, but I was just alone 24 hours a day with Beckham. And I was overwhelmed being a new mom. I think I was suffering from some postpartum depression. And I was very attached to Beckham. Like, he was my everything. I didn't want anybody to watch him. I just was with him 24 hours a day, and I like clung to him. Pause. So in retrospect, it was, I would give anything to go back to that time. But alas, here we are. And that was a hard time for me. I was alone. My family lives back in Wisconsin. I was here in Arizona. So I didn't have anybody, and I just was kind of internally just depressed, and I didn't do anything about it to try to fix it. So, he came home one day, Sam, and was like, I don't want to hide this from you, but this is what I'm doing. And he told me he was back on heroin, and I guess in his way tried to educate me about it by letting me try it. I don't know. I don't blame him. I made the decision. I was an adult. I think I was 25, about 25 at the time. So I was an adult. I knew, how to make my own decisions. And so that started a whirlwind that started a spiral. And immediately after getting on heroin, I decided I wanted to get off of it. We both did, but it was just a constant, if you know anything about addiction, it was a constant like, let's go to rehab, let's get clean, let's do this, and nothing ever happened. And through that, another one of Sam's problems came out, which was gambling. And so it was like 6 months of using, and which also spiraled my depression even more because I was more secluded and more like paranoid and nervous and trying to take care of Beckham at the same time. And he came home, I remember specifically, it was on my birthday. My birthday is the 4th of March. So our rent is due on the 1st, and they give you like a 3-day grace period, right? Well, like on my birthday, I find out we haven't paid rent yet. And I'm like, and that same day I was promised we were going to go out to dinner or whatever for my birthday. And I was like, okay. So I'm waiting around for him all day long and doesn't show up, whatever, till way later. He gets there and says he has to talk to me, has to tell me something. He lost all our money. So we don't have money to pay rent. So at that point, that was like a tipping point in my story because I made the decision. Well, I had 2 decisions. I could take Beckham and go get clean, whatever. I knew all of the repercussions of what I was doing, or I could stay. And that is what I did. I stayed. And I made the decision that no matter what, we were in this together. We're married, we made a commitment. And I was going to stick by that commitment and stick by his side no matter what. And that is exactly what I did. So we got evicted and moved in with his parents. Within 2 months of living with his parents, they found out that we were both using and took Beckham and kicked us out. So when that happened, for me, it was like, that was the end of my world. Beckham was the only thing holding me together. And so I lost it. I lost it all. I ended up, not caring, running the streets with my ex, just this downward spiral. Beckham was under the temporary custody of Sam's parents, and within 6 months of when they got temporary custody, he was officially adopted out by Sam's brother, who lives in Arizona. And it was a closed adoption, but I didn't even know that because I was on the streets. And in that time, when the depression started, when we lost Beckham, we also started doing meth. So it was like this constant up and down paranoia of heroin and meth together, and it was awful. And in that time, we got in trouble a lot, and me more than him. So I ended up going to prison twice. The first time was for a 3rd-degree burglary. I tried to hop into somebody's car and they caught me. And then the other one was found a blank check and I tried to cash it. So stupid mistakes. And after that second time, I got 2.5 years and I served my time. And did my parole, paid all my fines. And when I went to prison the second time, I made a decision. There was a switch that flipped. I was going to change my life. And I did. I got sober with the help of prison and moved back to Wisconsin and turned my life around. And also, in the meantime, back to when I was using, I had my second son, Sullivan. And he was immediately adopted out to an extended family member of Sam's who they're amazing, and that one is an open adoption. So all that has led me to here now, to where I'm at right now. I am 5 years sober as of August 1st of this year. I still do not see Beckham. He is 9 years old, and I haven't seen him since he was 1.5. And Selvin I just seen, he's 7. And it's hard. It's really hard. But there's a silver lining, and I tell you all this backstory because the reason I'm putting it out there, there's 2 big reasons that I think, actually 3, that I think are very important to why I'm doing this, why I'm telling my story. Number 1, for me. So it's always been so hard for me to be selfish. I will always put everyone above me if I let myself. If I'm not number 1, I am at the bottom of the list. I will do anything for anyone else, and that's not healthy for me. If I don't put myself number 1, bad things will happen. Bad things happen. I will follow people into the depths of hell and be okay with it. So that's number 1. I have to put myself number 1. Number 2, for my boys. I was never that person. The type of person that gets their sons taken away, that is not me. I don't like being defined by that. It's something that happened to me, but I'm telling you, like, my dream was to be a mother. So now everything I do has to be for them, and it is. And my youngest son, Selvin, I get to see him, I get to interact with him, I love him, and he's just amazing. So amazing. And he brings this light out of me. And Beckham, I am just holding out for you to come and find me. And I got about 8 more years before he can come find me, but I am waiting. And I am proving to him that I want him, that I love him, that I never wanted to lose him. My love was never in question. And finally, number 3, I want to bring hope. I want to help people that may have gone through something similar to me. My story is something that should inspire others to know that it's possible, that we do recover, that I'm doing everything I need to do to live a healthy, happy lifestyle.